You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Rays podcast, and today we have the pleasure of being joined by Logan Driscoll, Rays prospect. Should I say catcher slash outfielder slash first base, or are you primarily playing catcher one position over the other right now?
I guess I'm primarily playing catcher, but I always just mess around calling myself a little bit of a utility player. So
there we go. Yeah. That works. We know the Rays love their utility players nowadays for sure. Well, first off, congratulations on the call up to Triple-A. That had to be a very important and special moment for you, just getting one step closer to the big league dream, if you will.
Right. Definitely. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely something we've been working towards for a while. And there's like a little bit more of an element to it. My fiance is here. She's working at Duke. She's a resident doctor there.
Wow.
So just getting the call and being able to move up here. We just bought a house here as well because we're looking at being here for the next 5 years. So just getting that step and being able to kind of bring our worlds together since we've been long distance for this whole time. It's pretty cool that our careers are kind of meeting up in the same spot for the time being.
Wow. So your significant other was working at Duke prior to the call up. Is that correct?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk about, I guess, kismet or just a perfect situation there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So just can you kind of take us a little bit back into getting the news that you were getting the promotion from Double-A to Triple-A? Can you just kind of give us a lay of the land of how that went down? The coaches, the front office, just how that conversation went.
Right. So we finished the game in Montgomery, and Mel Ensberg called me into the office and just said, "Hey, we're sending you up to Durham." And he's like, "You're more than ready for this opportunity, and just go be yourself up there and have fun." They told me that I had a flight the next morning at like 5:30, so I hopped on a flight to get to a noon game in Norfolk. So I got a little introduction just moving and playing in the same day. I mean, you see like big leaguers or like the Triple-A fringe guys, they get called up and they're next thing you know, they're pitching that same day that they're traveling. So it was a long day for sure, but very exciting.
Oh, I bet. And now you've been in Triple-A for I think I checked it recently, a week plus. You've played, I guess, a handful of games at the Triple-A level thus far. Just what has this experience been like for you? Just the gameplay of going from Double-A to Triple-A for you.
Right. I mean, it's really polished up here. Like the pitching, you're not getting many pitches to hit. You're lucky if they make a mistake. And there's like no give in by pitchers. Even if you work a 2-0, 3-0 count, they're still willing to stick to their best pitch, whether that's a slider, changeup. They're not going to give you a break really at all. And then the defense is pretty special. I think in the second game, I potentially could have hit a grand slam. Wind was kind of blowing in. I hit the ball well. And I was like, okay, that's at least a double. And I think the center fielder for the Tides was Cowser, and he ran it down ran pretty much into the fence and caught it to end the inning. And so instead of having a couple RBIs and an extra base hit, I ended up having nothing. So the talent level, and like I said, every player seems pretty polished up here.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I guess there's been some fringe big leaguers or guys who have had some big league experience. So have you encountered that already where you see a name or you played alongside a guy who has that taste of being at the show, if you will?
Right, definitely. I mean, this past week we were playing Jesse Winker. Donaldson just got here, so he was in one of the games. And then obviously we have our own guys, like Taj was here. Now he's back up in the bigs. Curtis Meade just got back. We have Frankie Mejia. And those are all guys, I mean, we've had exposure with just like in big league camp. And obviously I kind of came up with Taj and Curtis. So, yeah, it's definitely it's a different atmosphere when you have those guys that have had a little taste of the big leagues. Obviously, Frankie Mejia has been in the bigs for quite a bit. And, I mean, it's different. Even just calling a game, you're like, okay, it's Josh Donaldson, but you kind of realize like, okay, like these are just like normal dudes playing the game, you know,
Right.
like they have weaknesses too. And it's fun. It's a fun aspect of the game right now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned buying a house and kind of setting roots down in Durham. Have you gotten to experience what's in the community a little bit? Just anything that stands out for you about, I know you're busy moving in and playing baseball and all that, but just what kind of is special about the Durham community if you've noticed anything thus far?
Right. I mean, it's very cool. Like the community is very focused around the Durham Bulls. And so like I went over to a furniture shop, like a mom and pop furniture shop, and she's like, "Oh, you just moved in?" I said, "Yeah. I'm actually playing for the Durham Bulls. My fiance is here as a doctor, resident," and she just erupted about me being a Bull for like the first time. You know, like we're playing in these random places, and like baseball's not, or like minor league baseball doesn't get the attention that we all want it to. So that's pretty cool about the community. It's like it's very focused around the Bulls. Like everyone loves the Bulls. They get great crowds here. But just like the community itself, it's very like close knit. A lot of mom and pop shops. And the people just seem good down here. So yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
good. Yeah,
That's great. And I know it's, besides getting the news of the call up to Triple-A, do you have a favorite moment or a couple moments so far from the minor league season, whether it's in Double-A or maybe even in Triple-A as well? Just
right.
What's sort of stood out to you about this season so far in 2023?
Yeah, it's always hard picking moments. I mean, everything kind of just blends together.
Yeah.
You kind of lose track of everything. I would say, I guess earlier in the year, I hit a walk-off home run against the Cubs Double-A team, the Smokies. That was pretty great time. And then even up here, my first Triple-A at bat, ended up hitting a homer off John Means, former All-Star rehabbing. So that was great too. But yeah, I mean, I would say like my favorite thing though, is just like throwing guys out at second when they steal. That's been, because I think I've had issues with my shoulder and stuff like that, but this year I've been actually feeling pretty good. So it's fun to have that aspect of the game back for myself. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Do you know kind of what your percentage is of throwing guys out, or or is it kind of about what you expected or better than expected? I don't know if there's any kind of indicators of what the Rays are looking for you to do in that department.
Right. I mean, I don't have any exact numbers. I just know like the zips back on the ball for the first time in a while. You know what I mean? It just feels good, and feel comfortable back behind the plate right now. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, a moment like a walk-off. What happens in the clubhouse after a game like that at the minor league level? Do they celebrate going out to dinner? Do they pop bottles? Just kind of what's the moment like after something like that happens?
Right. I mean, down in Double-A, no matter the win, we have a little celebration that we do with Mo Ensberg. So that's always a good time. Some music's playing. But I mean, like the games matter to us. You can say it's whatever, May, June, July, in the middle of a minor league season, but the games still matter to us. And so the guys are always fired up. We're having a good time. We're always going out there to win these games, and it's fun when it ends up being a walk-off. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned Mo Ensberg, and that's something I just wanted to touch on. He's a pretty well-known name. Any baseball fan had probably heard of him at some point in time, at least somebody my age. Just what kind of influence has he had on you as far as and others that played for him? Just what he brings to the table as a manager, you would say.
Right. I mean, Mo's great. He's a player manager, but he's also one that like keeps you in line. He loves the grind. He expects us to grind every day because he went through it. But for that same reason, him being a big leaguer, him coming up through the minors, he has that like tenderness to be like, okay, like I see this guy struggling. Like I'm gonna pick this guy up and let him know, hey, like you're great and you have to struggle right now to be the player that you're gonna be.
Right.
So that's great about Mo. He's one of my favorite managers I've ever had.
Before we continue, we have to tell you about Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair health wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. It works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair 6 months after taking Nutrafol Men's hair growth supplement. So take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter promo code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB, spelled NUTRAFOL.com/men and enter promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Awesome. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I hear there's kind of an old adage of organizations, they only care about winning at the big league level. It doesn't matter wins or losses at the minor league level. But for the Rays, it seems like we've looked at the history, and pretty much every step from A, AA, AAA, whatever it may be, there's a consistency in terms of winning in success. Do you kind of get that impression of the games kind of do matter? I mean, learning how to win and experience a winning culture does matter at the minor league level?
Right, definitely. I definitely agree. And I think the Rays do a good job of, and I've always said this to people, it's the Rays get good people before the good player. And obviously we get them both, but they're looking at the person first. And I think that comes to personality and like the drive to win, but also being a good person. And then you add that with the scouting department of, hey, like this is a good player, and you combine those things, you get good clubhouse environments, like close-knit guys. And I think that's what propels us to be so successful across the minor leagues. I mean, you look at the standings, I think every team is pretty much in the hunt for the playoffs. Yeah. So, and that's been consistent since I got over here in 2021. So
that's great. Awesome. Yeah. It's funny. I was trying to do a little research on you, Logan, and the season that you're having thus far this season. And I saw a news article, television report of you utilizing something called Q Collar to help with catching safety, injury prevention, concussion prevention. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you were exposed to that, and what Q Collar is and does for you?
Right. So my agency set me up with Q Collar, and it was this offseason that my agent's like, hey, we just got to figure out how to keep you on the field. Like, that's always been the biggest problem of kind of my career, and I don't know how you'd say it, like my reputation is,
right.
Hey, this guy can't play a whole season pretty much. And it's always something unfortunate. Like there's always a concussion thrown in there. And so that's always an extra month that's kind of out of your control. But so I got the Q Collar, used it all spring training, had some foul balls off the mask. I even got trucked a few weeks ago down in Montgomery, and I was fine after that. The only time that I noticed that I felt a little dazed was I was playing outfield. I think it was my first game playing outfield in Montgomery. Was going for a ball and ended up flipping over the wall. And so I was a little dazed and confused for a few days there. And that was like the only time I wasn't wearing the collar. So I was like, okay, I need to be wearing this every game, whether I'm catching DH, first base, outfield. And I think it's truly worked. And like I've got people asking me about it all the time. A lot of NFL players are wearing them, and I think everyone's starting to realize like the benefits of it, just to minimize, like if you get rocked, you're going to get rocked.
Right.
But to minimize those smaller concussions and those symptoms, I think it's definitely beneficial.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And just kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, can you kind of give us a little insight into how demanding physically the catching position is? Because I really feel like some people don't quite understand of just how much of a toll it takes on the body overall.
Right. Right. I mean, it's definitely very demanding on the body, but then you also add that aspect of, hey, like the way I view it is I have this pitcher's career in my hands pretty much when I'm calling this game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to do my due diligence, learn these hitters from the other team, call the right things. I'm overanalyzing everything just to make sure each pitch is correct. So you also have to add the mental toll on top of that. And then you also add in, hey, I'm trying to hit, I want to play both sides of the ball and play them well. So it becomes a very, like, once you hit that mid-season mark, you're pretty tired.
Right.
And then you add playing down in the Southern League where it's humid with no breeze. I mean, field temps are like 115 just based on humidity. It's a different beast down there in Double-A for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you also have the added element of you're also playing other positions too,
Right,
between
right.
first base and outfield and the occasional DH as well. So you've got seems like you have your hands full with a lot of
Right.
things going on for sure.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. And you probably have some good insight on this from the catching position. Just there's been so many rules changes across baseball, and minor leagues are kind of the testing ground and the guinea pig for a lot of these things, be it pitch clocks, base sizes, defensive restrictions, pitch calm. Just what's your take on some of the wholesale changes that are coming towards the game or that already have happened in the game as well, especially from a catching perspective? Just do you have any thought or opinion one way or the other about one or more of these rules changes that sticks out to you, or just overall?
Right. I mean, I think for the majority of the changes, they're good. I mean, the bigger bases, the pitch clock, the step off rules. I think it all creates a faster paced game and a more dynamic game. Runners more inclined to steal, which is great for the game. I mean, there's a point where it seemed like no one was running anymore. Everyone was just trying to hit homers and stuff like that. So it's bringing that part of the game back, which is great. I think there's still some stuff that we have to fix with the pitch clock. I think there needs to be more leniency. I mean, I'll be warming up a pitcher in between innings. We're doing a little like in between inning stadium gimmick, and there will be a kid running the bases and they're taking forever and they stop like right by the plate. And I'm like, hey, can we reset the clock? And he's like, nope. I'm like, all right, come on. Now you're going to get someone hurt, right?
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that. Or like I'm coming out, I was the last out, so I'm putting on my gear and then it's immediately throw the ball down. It's like, you're kind of exposing me to hurt myself, Right. So like there's some stuff like that needs to get cleaned up. And but I think honestly the rules are good. I'm hoping the electronic strike zone doesn't become like a full thing, because I think you're truly going to lose like an art form in the game. Like stealing pitches is and has always been part of the game. And also, you're potentially just going to change the course of baseball forever if you get rid of that aspect of the umpire. Now, I do think the pitch challenge with the electronic strike zone is great. Like, I think in those pivotal moments in the games, there needs to be a chance for you to either, like myself, I don't like that call. I think that was a strike. We're one out away from winning a World Series and bases are loaded. Like, I want to be able to get that call right. So I think that's a good aspect of the game that would be introduced, but we'll see,
Yeah.
If it becomes electronic strike zone, I think you're going to see the catching position change. It's going to be someone that pretty much hits for power, can basically just catch a baseball and throw it really well. So
before we continue, we have to tell you about Sleeper. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Acuna, Betts, Ohtani, and more. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to a 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win BIG big. Use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Again, Sleeper, it's the place to be for daily fantasy baseball. Right. Understood. And so have they been using, or have you used PitchCom yet? Because I was trying to hammer down on that. Is that only something that's at the Triple-A level in the minors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's only at Triple-A.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had a little bit of an exposure to it in big league spring training, so I wasn't lost when I got up here. But I like that. I enjoy that a lot. I mean, you don't have to worry about night signs. You pretty much get the ball back. The pitcher doesn't even have to be on the mound. You start running through signs just to kind of get the sign and get ready with the pitch clock. That was the toughest part about down in Montgomery. It's dark. They can't see the signs. We're running with the pitch clock, and by the time you get the sign off, there's like 2 seconds left. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's a lot. Now kind of speaking on defense a little bit more, how much of your time is dedicated to focusing on the catching position versus the other positions that quote unquote make you a utility player? Is it like, hey, I spend 80% of my focus is allocated on catching and 10% on first base, 10% on outfield, just because there's only so much time in the day and only so much you can work on, just how you kind of navigate or how the coaching staff and the front office navigates that for you?
Right. Honestly, I mean, majority of my time, if I have extra time, it's all spent towards pretty much catching.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I don't think I've done outfield work in quite a bit of time, probably since the All-Star break. But then like first base, I'll go out and get some ground balls, maybe like 2 or 3 times a week just to stay fresh. Right. I mean, I think the first game or second game I played in here, I ended up catching 8 innings, and then the 9th inning went over to first base. I was like, okay, I better get some reps just to make sure I'm at least ready for like opportunities like that. And I was actually supposed to play first the other day, but we got a rain out. So it seems like every time also that I've been slotted to play first base, I think the last 3 times we've had a rain out. So,
wow.
You know, maybe I'm just only meant to be a catcher. So we'll see.
Right. And speaking of that a little bit, when you're playing catcher versus first base or outfield or DH, do you feel, well, maybe let me frame it like this. Do you feel like you're a better hitter on the days that you're playing a position other than catcher, or it doesn't really matter to you at the end of the day? It's maybe, the adrenaline doesn't wear off until that evening or the next morning or whatever it may be. Because there could be an argument that, for example, Yandy Diaz, he went away from playing third base and now he's first base, and getting rid of the wear and tear of playing third base and the focal point of third base has maybe allowed him to settle in more as a hitter. Do you feel that at all, or it's just not something really you focus on or think about?
I mean, that's always kind of like in the back of my mind. That point in time when this season where I was just kind of playing my best baseball at the plate.
Mm-hmm.
I was catching twice a week. I was playing outfield, little DH, little first. So that's always like a part of it. And like, it's hard to stay fresh when you're catching all the time.
Right.
But like, you never want to admit that to yourself that, hey, like I can't catch and I can't hit at the same time, because
Mm-hmm.
you truly can. It's just, I don't think, did I just lose you?
Oh, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. I guess I lost one ear. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, no, you're good.
All right, great. I just think, you just have to realize as a catcher, there's more to your game than just hitting. You're pretty much deciding the fate of the pitcher that night. Obviously, he's got to command his stuff, but it's your due diligence that's going to get him through his outing and stuff. So you have to also place value on that, and not just hitting.
Right.